This is impressive. Let's hear everyone take a bow. Somebody actually bowed.
We just
bow before your God.
Kneel before your
God,
queen.
Who? You.
Great to see you all here. Thanks for coming. Of course, the doors are going to lock when you're trying to leave, but...
Is that it for questions then? Thank you. But we have a question for you over here. First of all, it's just a personal thing for me here. I want to ask, this whole thing about the girl being just so evil and knowing all technology inherently in themselves, you know, it's part of what they know.
We're not evil, we're just misunderstood.
That's what every bad person says. That's great. Do you guys personally believe in aliens coming down? How much of all that do you subscribe to in the Egyptian thing?
I wasn't actually born here.
I definitely believe in aliens, and I find it absolutely fascinating, the whole pyramid phenomenon that's across the world. I mean, even in China, where it's covered with soil and grass. And there's just certain things throughout history that just make me, yeah.
I definitely, having visited Egypt, you go there and you just go, this is insane, the technology is so advanced. And funny enough, Cliff and I were talking about this the other night, and I said they've got on some of the temples and things, there are hieroglyphics of that, they are helicopters. It absolutely is a helicopter, and, you know, I don't know, but yeah, I'm a sort of reluctant believer, but I definitely think there's something out there.
Right, 100%. There are just so many corners of this universe, this whole thing that we know as creation, that we, as mere specks, don't understand. There's got to be something else out there. Whether it's green skin with one eye, I don't know. But I'm willing to bet that it's going to be something that we encounter sooner rather than later.
And they fly helicopters.
or they hitch a ride on asteroids.
All right, we've got some questions here. We're going to go straight to you guys. First question over here.
All right, first thing I'd like to do is just, when you were here 13 years ago, Peter, I asked a tough question that you guys couldn't answer, and you were, as a result, you gave me a little discount on my photo. I would just like to say once more, thank you very much for that.
But do I have an answer now?
Oh, I do.
What I will, just before you go on, I'll just say that you say 13, I've had a couple of 15s. Some people say it's 15 years. Might be 15. I think it was 15 because 97, that makes it 17. Boy, it's not nice.
I know you were here.
I think it was 99. I'm going to settle on 99, that's the average.
I know you were here with Terrell Rothery and the late Donnie Davis.
Bless the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, my question is, and if it's all right with the staff, I'd like to shake your hands while you're answering it. Do you guys have any embarrassing moments from the behind the scenes that you could share with us?
If I couldn't answer that then, what makes you think I'm going to answer it? Embarrassing? Well, I will just tell you that while you negotiate with the organizers, I will just tell you that my costume was pretty difficult to get in and out of in certain of its incarnations, and there was a fellow whose primary job on set was to dress a office and undress a office. And that fellow enjoyed his job a little too much for my liking. So on occasion it was embarrassing, but he turned out to be such a nice guy, I just let him do what he wanted. And you know, times have changed. That's no longer embarrassing, it's merely an anecdote.
He did love the boys though.
He did, yes. Well, he dressed you too.
and undress me.
Cliffy was literally aside to do their job, he just deleted me. I had, one of the funny things was when they couldn't decide if they wanted to use my real hair, which was very, very red at the time, or to wig me, or to go in the kind of black wig, for, like sort of a la Cleopatra. And I went through lots of makeup tests and all sorts of things, and then finally on my very first day when they decided for the wig, I sort of had half my face done because they were testing the makeup and the other half not done, and it's now, you know, 6 a.m. No one really is their best at 6 a.m. and no wig on, so my hair in pin curlers with that sort of stocking on it, in a robe and a dressing gown, at the craft service table, shoving a bagel into my mouth, and I feel a tap on the shoulder, it's like, hey, I'm Rick, and I went, I am not the elephant man, I am an actor.
She's so good at that.
It was horrendous. I've had a lot of embarrassing practice. Yeah, so that was kind of embarrassing.
I just have a story. I've actually told it maybe here earlier, but it was embarrassing for someone else. We were doing a scene where I'm attacking Amanda, and Rick comes in and he's trying to, you know, save her, and I've already kind of, my Jaffa have been downed, and, you know, we've got zap point, and we suddenly hear and it's one of the Jaffa, and of course we try to continue for a little while because they've been lying there. Of course, it takes a lot longer to film these things than it is on screen, so someone got a little relaxed, and then we start a new take. And it was only when I was in Chicago at Creation last month that I realized which Jaffa that was, and it was Dan Payne.
Who went on, who graduated from Jaffa status.
Yes, yes.
Chris Judge always tells a funny story about, I don't know what season, you'll probably be able to tell me, but when he said he was so tired that in one of the scenes he was just sleeping, and then one of the producers comes and said, "Were you sleeping? Oh my God, that is so disrespectful. Were you sleeping through that take?" And he's like, "No. I was meditating."
Indeed.
Before we go any further on the embarrassing thing, I would just like to caution Cliff about how he holds that microphone, because it appears to... There you go.
What's wrong with me? Alright, that's my most embarrassing moment I've had. I didn't really ever get embarrassed. Bond doesn't get embarrassed. But
He's got balls.
He's got big balls. He doesn't get embarrassed. The one I don't remember the episode. We were in the jungle with a force field and they arrived, and I was like, wait. Tilt gave me a power bar to chew because I hadn't eaten for a while. And I was chewing that, and then he came up behind me and he grabbed me in the take. And the power bar just went flying. It was fantastic, and I wish they'd kept it, but the problem is we actually ruined the shot because both Chris and I just packed up laughing. We actually couldn't shoot that scene. It was so natural and fantastic, but they never kept it in. It just went flying, like right, it was great. So that was kind of a funny moment. It wasn't really embarrassing, but it kind of was because, you know, you got the whole crew watching you and all that kind of stuff. So.
I also remember, it finally occurred to me one day when I was doing, it was Metamorphosis, so I was wearing that particularly revealing costume with the keyhole cutout that was for a very large key, I think. And I had this habit, and I know I'm not alone, I'm not the only actress who does this. You can see yourself in the camera lens. So I was using the camera lens as my mirror before we shot, and I realized I was kind of arranging myself. And then I looked over at Video Village, which is where we call the, you know, the playback screens, and I realized that everyone was paying very close attention. To me, oh, the feed is still, you know, it's not just when the camera's live, and so I stopped doing that.
But it's the first clip on the blooper reel.
Oh, blooper reel.
Blooper reel.
Blooper reel.
Dude, you got value for your answers.
Yeah, they're sitting watching those screens, and even upstairs, like if you're on set, upstairs in the production offices, the screens are on, and you're standing in front of a camera, and you're like... doing all this kind of stuff.
Actors in
it's kind of like when you... Also, what you forget when you're on set, your mic.
Your microphone, oh.
And you're like, I just got to run to my trailer, I've got to go to the toilet, you know? And you forget your mic. And you eventually, after learning, you eventually learn, okay, I've got to switch the mic off, you've got to switch it off. And then you go to the toilet because, funny, you just hear this, it's crazy.
You mentioned Don S. Davis, and that reminds me of something he said. He came up with this, and I'm not sure if it was his, but his delivery made it his in my book. He said, I'm just going to drop the kids off at the pool.
Being the gentleman that he was.
Being the gentleman.
That's a lovely. I actually had a sound guy remind me that my mic was still on because I was doing some
dropping
preparation.
the kids off at the pool.
I was doing some preparation before coming in. I was kind of getting myself worked up and saying some very rude things. And he came up and he said, your mic is live. And I'm like nodding, I'm totally somewhere else. And I just keep doing it.
Okay, next question.
This is probably a question that you've all been asked a great many times before, but could each of you in your most gold voice, I'm not sure if we have a flanging unit back at the sound desk, but could you in your most gold voice say your favourite line from any episode?
Okay, I'll go first. If someone can assure me that Richard Dean Anderson is not in the room. My favorite line is, without a doubt, a line I delivered to him, to Colonel O'Neill, on the set of The Knox, in the rainforest. Fool, I will kill you.
We must gift you and give you praise.
Bring the other one.
Oh no, this is a shot.
Yes, golds are very affectionate. Very good household pets.
Yeah, but they never let us do a sex scene. So, anyway. Or was it just off the top of your head?
Them's fighting words, them's fighting words. May your death last days and may your life last days and your death hours. There we go. There we go. I finally got that. Somebody reminded me of that one.
That was actually very good.
If you blinked, you missed it.
My best was when he came in on his knees. Remember that? It was fantastic. Because we couldn't see you. I was like waiting, and like we couldn't see you at all. And then they parted, and
Oh, I struck it from
it was great.
Hi, it's just a really quick question for Peter. I was listening to the cocktail party last night. You mentioned that you like golden kiwi fruit. Is that true?
That I what, sorry?
You like golden kiwi fruit?
Yes, I do.
I got some for you.
Girl, thank you.
Did I mention at the cocktail party I like champagne?
Have you guys ever had these?
Yeah.
The golden ones.
Yeah, they're amazing. An actual costume.
It's like a box of balls.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Amanda with the coffee! Thank you, darling.
Alright, we have another question here.
Yes.
Hey guys,
Hi.
I just want to ask, what did you do to get into your characters? What preparation did you do? Wow.
What do I have to do to get into her character?
I think you've already been there. I mean, it was all not been read.
You think I remember?
I meant an Egyptian mythology technology. I think aren't we supposed to be, I don't know, we're father and daughter, mother and son, husband and wife. It's very complicated. We're a difficult family. We're like the royals.
You know, honestly, getting into the hair and makeup and wardrobe was really like descending into the character. It was a very long process, a couple of hours, you know, with the makeup, and then for me, at least at the beginning, the hand painting of the mehndi on the hands and getting into the costume. And by the time you get all that gear, you're just ready to get on stage and start bossing people around.
I'm Ball. It was just me. I didn't do anything. I put his boots on and, yeah.
But you had tell a lovely story at your audition where everyone was kind of like all sitting and you were the opposite. That's quite nice.
Well, you're trying to make me talk a little bit more.
I've never heard the story.
It's a nice story.
I'd like to hear that.
Oh, but that's a little bit off the question.
Well, no, because I think sometimes in your prep with roles,
okay, so
very
yeah.
often you prep at the audition, and that's what gets you the job. So when you're then on the set, you take that slightly further, and that's why it ties.
So so the first episode, I think it was Summit, when they had all the new system lords sitting in a circle. I kind of walked in. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any of the other actors in the show, and we hadn't really spoken. And I kind of saw everyone's trying to be bad, you know. And I always play the bad guy, so. But this was a whole new thing. I'd never done sci-fi. They're all being bad, and they're all sitting like waiting. And I kind of looked at all of this, and so I slowly just sunk a little bit lower in my throne that I was sitting in. And then Osiris walked in, and I was like, I did that. And I smiled, and I looked her up and down, and all the other guys were like, you know? And I thought that was the character. He just arrived, and I was like, okay, this is the character. He's going to be a human. He's not going to be an alien, and I'm going to play him like that, and just let the dialogue make him bad. You don't have, the best way to play a bad guy is not to play bad. And I've always said, like, the best or the worst bad people on this earth, serial killers, whatever, they're very charming people. That's how they get their victims. So that's how I went with Bob. I wanted him to be charming and funny because that's how you get people to relax and be like, whack. So that was my kind of development. So the first 2 or 3 episodes, I got into it that way.
Another question here. Hello, if my memory serves me correct, there's an episode where you and all your clones, if I'm correct, 12 of them. Oh, all the
22.
My mistake. They're all just sitting at a big, long table, and I'm guessing that you're just doing individual scenes.
Yes, I was doing all of them. So they would do a take, and then I would move to the next position. And then at that one stage of the episode you're talking about where we were all killed, all the clones were actually dead on the table, so I had to lie like that, like that, make each one different. And then when we were all transported back into my ship, I was just standing, and they would do the take, and then I would move, and do the take. And that's what I did.
That's like the Stargate, the one-man show.
Yeah.
Don't come here. What do you mean? Indeed.
Exactly.
But you know what? I'm upset about that because...
Wait. I think
oh, sorry.
Sorry.
So sorry.
You're just answering my question.
So yes, I played all of them. Every single one.
My question was, how awkward was it, like talking to yourself and going?
It was very, very difficult. I'd done green screen work before, but not to that extent. When I was talking to myself, I had to remember, there were marks on the floor, like in the smaller room when there was 5 of us with Amanda, and we were trying to get the codes of the computer and thing. I remembered where I was standing, and obviously my height is the same, so I had to look directly at myself when I was talking or looking at myself, otherwise you can see with eye lines on camera if it's a little too high or too low, so you're either looking at someone's forehead or you're looking at their chin. What they did a few times was, right at the end of the studio, they would put big tape marks. So I could see, so I would look directly at that tape, which was directly looking into the eyes of my other clone. Kind of like that. Some of the scenes, there was nothing next to me. That scene where I came in and I put my hand on my clone, it was nothing. I just walked in, was like, so. And it just worked. We were lucky. That was my idea, to do that shot. And they said, Cliff, okay, it's very expensive. I said, we've got to do that shot. I have to touch myself. I couldn't word it anywhere else, I'm sorry. And they said, look, that shot's going to cost $35,000. You've got to do it right, you know. And we did it in one take. And I was just so happy with it because you've got to be careful, because either you're going to go down like into yourself, or you know, you're going to be above yourself and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so it was very difficult, but a great learning experience.
Thank you.
Thanks, great question.
Hello to you all. Nice to meet you. I just say it's my honour to be a first prime to any of you.
Hello.
I think you mean these two.
My question is, if you could take one device away from Stargate, what would you choose?
I agree. I love the hand device. Yeah, I think that's just a cool thing to have.
For me, it would have been a Zat gun, to tell you the truth. I didn't get to hold a weapon, per se. Oh, yes, I did. I got a staff weapon in one of those episodes, the Knox, I think. I don't know where it was. But I had a staff weapon. I would have preferred a Zat gun.
I liked the phase-shifting technology that allowed me to become invisible. I thought, that's very handy. I could use that.
I think I would have liked to have taken all the Jafar with me.
Thank you.
The props. That's props.
Hi, I've actually got two questions. How heavy were your costumes for the gold and individual costumes? And when it came time to do the voice for the gold, were there any sort of awkward moments when you were trying to play a gold as opposed to a regular person?
Sue-Ann, your costume wasn't very heavy, was it?
No, that's because there was nothing to it. And in fact, I was saying yesterday, I saw the original drawing, and it literally was a coat hanger that had been sort of turned into some kind of Barbarella type bra, and then a thing that went down here, and then a whoop up the butt floss kind of thing. So I was mightily relieved I wasn't wearing that. So mine wasn't heavy, but it was exceptionally uncomfortable. I couldn't sit down in it. It was completely heavily boned down the sides. And I had to have the other costume underneath, which used to dig into me, and the necking, and I couldn't sit down on set, so they used to get me a board, and kind of be like, propped up against the wall, going, hi, morning, hello, yeah, time to work, okay. And in terms of doing, no, because what they do is they added all that in post-production, so when you're being the Gould and your voice has to change, it was more a physical thing of, you know, with the eyes kind of looking down, and I think also with my character, because so much of her evilness was seduction, I didn't have any of that kind of stuff. I just had all
The snakehead, I had several costumes. The two snakeheads, actually it was two, because you saw it as one, but it was two. One was permanently open and another one was hydraulically controlled to open and close. So anytime you see the thing opening and closing, it's the mechanical one, and anytime you see me just walking around with the snakehead on, it's the rubberized open one. They both weighed about 60 pounds each. Yeah, they were heavy.
The only weight that I had to any of my costumes was the bodice piece that I wore in Fair Game, because it was encrusted with semi-precious stones. And it was incredibly beautiful, so it was worth lugging around. I was absolutely fine with them.
Yeah, but my costumes were very heavy, and also most of the time I had those huge boots above the knee, leather boots things, which were extremely hot. So my costumes were very hot. And shooting in Vancouver in summertime, they switched the air conditioning off in the studios because of the sound, and it gets to like 100 degrees in the studio, and you're just sweating underneath those. The jacket I had for Continuum, the coat, beautiful, thick leather, probably weighed about 20 pounds. That jacket was really heavy, yeah. All of my costumes were very heavy because they were all real leather and real metal. Nothing was fake. There wasn't plastic and, you know, fake leather or
Plastic can be
PVC.
hot too, and
Yeah.
the film lights are extremely hot. It's like standing right under a heater. So I had lots of air conditioning though built into my costume. So
Hi. And this is for Peter. How stuffy did it get in the certain thing?
Well, it wasn't really how stuffy it was. It was how uncomfortable it was on the shoulders. Because you got that little fake chainmail stuff on your shoulders, and then you got 60 pounds sitting on top of it. So when you took it off, you had this little design embedded into your skin. The most uncomfortable things about it were the sight lines. It was really difficult to see anything below straight out. There was a little crack in it that I could see straight out, but I couldn't see down, and I couldn't see up. So someone had to be at my feet when I was leaving set in order to make sure I didn't step off a ramp or anything like that. And the mechanical one opened and closed within millimeters of the tip of my nose. So if you go back and rewatch, be aware that every time I deliver my line, you'll see my head slightly tip back in order for it to shoot.
Everything you say just sounds like a song. No, it just sounds like a reggae song. Whenever you just... I'm sitting here and I start, you know...
It's a similar vibe for island people, you know. These are island people we're looking at. These guys get it. Yeah, good.
Good morning, and thank you so much for your efforts in ruling the galaxy. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you. We've had to leave the kids in charge for the weekend.
There's certain areas that need to be brought under control, though, certain places.
That's to be expected. Humans will be humans.
Naughty children.
My question to you is, before preparing for your individual roles, did you read up much on the mythology of your individual gods, or did you just kind of decide to just play it straight?
I actually looked up Nirti after playing her. But I actually really do, I love Egyptian mythology, so it's fascinating to me. And I didn't realize, I guess I did look up actually, because I did find out she was evil and she had kind of played a role throughout history in Egypt. So yeah, I guess I did.
I looked mine up after the role as well. I had no idea, and then went to Egypt and she's everywhere. I was like, oh my god, Hathor was like, she's a big deal. She's kind of second in command to ISIS. Is that right? Yes, ISIS. Not that ISIS.
I had to do some research before, my hypothesis showed up in the pilot, so there was definite research there. And I needed to come to grips with the whole Ra situation, because before Apophis it was just Ra. And in Egyptian mythology, Ra and Apophis are brothers, or at least combatants. And Ra would rule the day, and Apophis was the serpent god of the night. And they would enjoin battle overnight, every night. Ra would always win, therefore the sun would always rise. And it was part of the whole mythology of the 24-hour cycle in Egyptian mythology. Plus, Apophis was not always known as Apophis. He's otherwise known as Apep, A-P-E-P, and much to my chagrin, you know, it was something that needed to be explained at certain points. But now you know, you'll never ask me that question again.
Yeah, before I went on set, they gave me a little bit about Baal, and then I researched a little bit more. It was just amazing. I mean, Baal was just the god of everything. Everything. There was so much, you know. And recently, actually, somebody tweeted to me they've just discovered a house of Baal. It's something that they've unearthed. So I kind of looked through all these gods and, thank you so much. That was very interesting. Yeah, house of Baal. I kind of looked through all these gods, and here's this storm god and that, and then I found God of fertility. And I thought, that that's what I'm going to use. So that's what I kept in my head. Okay, Baal is the god of fertility. That's what I went with.
I like being the goddess of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, it has to be said.
So would you have played your gods differently if looking back and going, oh, wow, this is quite different than what I did?
It sounds like Susie and the Banshees here would have.
Really, as an actor, when you're looking at your role, I mean, it may or may not be based on an Egyptian god, but you're looking at what your objective is. And whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, you then have to come up with some tactics, or they're going to be spontaneous, but if you're going to prepare well in advance, then you're going to come up with some tactics to achieve your goal. And it's going to be life and death, and you're not going to stop at anything to get there. So in good writing, all of that stuff just is like falling off a log. You can just find your way, and sometimes if there are pieces missing in the writing, the actor provides it. So that's more the preparation that I do, and most actors probably would say the same thing.
Also, I was, after reading about her, with the exception that Hathor in Egyptian mythology is not evil, and obviously wasn't Stargate, but almost everything was identical. So one of the conscious decisions I made at the audition was that this is a woman who uses what she has as her power. She then has the power to seduce through this weapon, you know, but she uses what she has. She's powerful, she's intelligent, and those are all things that cropped up in the descriptions about her anyway, so.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Just before we finish, you guys are being thorough with your answers. Thank you. Cheers.
I think this fits on really well. Just thinking about villains and gold, villains in particular, they all look at power as where they lead from a particular type of power. So Apophis is just presence, Hathor with the sex, drug, and rock and roll, like you said. I find that Niti has the intelligence thing, and just Baal with just, hey, social.
He's just Baal. Baal's got balls.
But the question was, some of you touched on it a little bit. Those are the approaches that the characters had as actors. Did you completely identify with that? Was that something that?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Was it something that you had to work at, or was it something that you chose even?
Man, I sure love the God complex thing. I'm getting used to that. Love it.
For me, no, it came completely natural. I really didn't do a lot of work for Baal, and Baal is me, really. I mean, I played myself. Really.
And for Newty, I mean, I suppose I did identify with that whole, you know, improving on trying to create a haptar, using science, using the intellect. There was some sexuality that was also came into it in Metamorphosis, but the mind was always working, absolutely. And Metamorphosis was this story that I shared story credit on, and so, in fact, I had put forth the idea of this DNA machine without even knowing that it was actually part of the Near-Teen mythology in episodes that I hadn't seen, that I didn't appear in. So it just worked out really well. So obviously that came naturally for me too.
Fantastic. Well, that's
before you, I know because it's late, everyone's going to put, but before we finish, I just stopped him because I know you guys are going to just afford to make a noise, so you're not going to hear. But I always say this at all the conventions we do now, it's still amazing, and I know they agree with me that after so many years, you guys are so supportive of a show like Stargate, which was, we all miss it. It was a great place to work, and just so you know, it's because of you guys that the show ran for 10 seasons. And that characters like us came into the show, and some of us stayed in the show longer than others, but you know, whatever. Which obviously means I'm the most popular. I'm just, thank you, and yes, personally, the characters stayed in the show for me because you guys liked the character and found him enjoyable. So thank you so much for the support for all these years. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys. So good. Thank you very much indeed. Have a rest of your day.